I bought the Canon R5 again. If you look at my videos from the fall of 2020, you'll see that I made a couple videos with this camera. I bought one back in September of last year, and I ultimately sold it because I knew I wouldn't be using it for a while, and I don't like to hold on to gear, especially gear that's this expensive, when I'm not going to use it very much. But in the last couple of months, I've been thinking about buying this one again because I wanted kind of an all-around camera that I could use for stills and for video. I know that it has some overheating issues, but for the way that I shoot, I don't think it'd be a problem for me. And I put it to good use already. I went on a trip with my family to Whidbey Island, that's in Puget Sound here in Washington State, and was kind of doing blogging, which is a new thing for me. I've never really blogged before. I'm vlogging, guys. I'm vlogging. Can you believe it? I'm just about ready to head out to Kenmore Camera. It's gonna be a really nice day out there. I can see already. I can see the appeal though, because you can produce a lot of content really quickly. Did I mention it was a nice day? It's a nice day. And with this kit lens here, it's a 24-105, I can easily do this and do blog style. It's got IBIS in the camera, it has stabilization in the lens, autofocus of course is amazing, so that's pretty cool. And I love the fact that it's just this small and compact, and it's pretty lightweight. The battery life is excellent. It's got a flip out screen, it's got a nice EVF, and it shoots 8K RAW. That's kind of overkill, but I do like my RAW. Otherwise I'll use the H.265 codec, even though it doesn't play back in my computer. I have to make proxies, but once I get one of those M1 Max, it'll be good. Yeah, so that's basically why I bought it, because I'm gonna do a little bit of blogging here and there. Behind me are the Olympic Mountains, the Olympic Range, Olympic National Park. This is Puget Sound. It's a very nice day for out here on the ocean, on the Sound. Usually it's raining, cold, or windy. Today it's hardly any wind. It's in the 70s, it's very mild. Very nice day. Behind me is Fort Casey. Construction started in 1897, I guess. So if you heard me say before that was like the 20s or something, nah, I was wrong. It was before that, which makes you wonder, what were they defending against? Because that was well before World War I, so I'm not really sure what made them build all these forts. These forts run from all the way up here in Washington to down into Oregon, so it's interesting. Carted over to the 10-inch guns. I think these ones are not original, of course. They're from the Philippines from like 1960 or something. Pretty darn big. The significance of a camera like this is the fact that I can take just the camera, a lens, and a spare battery and go pretty much anywhere and shoot something, as opposed to my Z-Cam setup, which I would usually bring a tripod with. I usually have a V-mount system on there. It's a little larger, it's heavier, it doesn't have autofocus in my opinion, not usable anyway. It's just not meant for this style of shooting. And of course there's a lot of other options out there. You don't have to spend $4,000 to do this kind of shooting. You can get a GoPro and be okay. I watch a lot of YouTubers who just shoot with GoPros, and it's fine because it's all about the content, not really about the image quality. But I'm somebody who really likes the image quality. It's kind of what I enjoy about video. It's just how good can I make it look, you know? So I'm gonna shoot with something like the Canon R5 that has pretty good video quality. So this is just a basic kit lens. It's the 24-105, but it's the variable aperture f4 to f7.1, which is pretty horrible. But I'm getting some pretty good shots out of it, and like I said, for blogging, especially outside, it's great. I still need to put END on the front to knock the light down, but having that zoom range, it's great. I can get out something really quickly. IBIS, stabilization, it's nice. And the RF mount, of course, means you can mount pretty much anything on this camera. I was playing around with the Hexanon lens that my father has. It's an f1.4, and man, that's a beautiful lens. It's from the late 60s, and it's sharp at f1.4. And I'm not kidding. Like, I have a bunch of f1.4 lenses that are vintage lenses, and wide open, they're usually not sharp, and they have a lot of chromatic aberration. But this lens, this Hexanon at 1.4, is sharp, It has no chromatic aberration. It's an impressive lens. The only problem is the flange distance on it is just a hair short of EF, so I can't use it on standard EF mount like I have on my f6 camera. But on this camera, no problem. I have a Hexanon adapter that goes to RF, and I can put that thing on there, and it's awesome. So I was doing some bokeh tests with that. Beautiful lens, nice bokeh, super shallow depth of field when you get right up on something. I also went to Kenmore Camera. It's in Kenmore, Washington, and it's my favorite camera store. There's really only 2 camera stores in Washington State. There's one in Seattle called Glazers, and then Kenmore. And Kenmore's my favorite. It's a pretty big store. The staff are friendly. Tons of bags. They have all the bags, row after row.
Well, probably
Think tank. They have Pelican cases. Shimoda. The Mindshift stuff. I had a Mindshift bag. It was alright. Of course, they have Peak Design. And all the accessories too. Nice. And the Optech. Little strap accessories. They have used lenses, which I always like looking at. Of course, I'm into the vintage stuff. So I was playing around with a bunch of lenses. Of course, I mounted the Canon 14mm wide-angle lens, has autofocus. That was fun. I mean, that would be a great blogging lens because you can just see everything. You can have 2 people in your shot.
Well, back in the
So if I hold this out one-handed, I can see everything. That's pretty cool. But then I played with some of these Nikon lenses that they have. I'm a fan of Nikon vintage lenses. They have a nice look, nice vintage look. Some people don't like them as much as the Canon FDs, which is fine. They're a lot easier to buy, a lot cheaper for the most part. So here I was playing with a 55 macro. You get super close up on stuff. I really like this 85mm f1.8. I think this lens is probably around 150 to 200 bucks used. And man, beautiful bokeh, nice soft bokeh balls. The edges aren't hard, has nice soft round edges. Here's a surprise. If you follow my Komodo content, you'll know that I have this Kippertie Revolva. It has a variable ND filter, locking EF mount, so it goes from RF from the Komodo to EF mount out here, and it has pins, so you still get, you know, aperture control and autofocus and all that kind of stuff. But it's got this built-in ND filter, which is just fantastic. It's IR filtered, so you don't have to worry about that. And you have clear, so you go from clear to 2 stops to 4 stops to 7 stops, I believe. I've talked about this thing before in other videos. It works on the R5, of course, because it's EF, or excuse me, RF, and it doesn't vignette. I thought this thing was only going to be good for Super 35. It works on full frame. It's awesome. I mean, it gives me another way to use this thing. I should, you know, for $1,800, it's nice to be able to use it actually. It's, you know, that's obviously very expensive, but in the world of cinema, it's just really nice to have. Very handy, just flipping that ND, and like I said, it's a high quality ND. So I was really happy to figure that out. I haven't used it as much as I'd like to, but I definitely need to experiment with that and start shooting with that, so I can put my manual focus lenses on this camera and have high quality ND. I can even put, you know, Canon EF class, and it'll work with this thing. So that's really cool. I don't have to bother with having, you know, ND filters on the front. Although with this lens, of course, I have to. It's RF mount lens. What else can I tell you? I mean, for my first time blogging, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I travel and do enough interesting things. I think I'll do that a little bit, mixing it in with tech content. So I'll probably be talking about some piece of camera in the midst of shooting, you know, some national park or the ocean or wherever I'm at. I'll be at a lot of anime conventions this year. I'm probably going to be at about 8 in total, which is quite a few, considering that they didn't start until June, so 8 in half of a year. That's on my other channel, Flannel Ninja. It's linked down below if you want to see that stuff. I spent a lot of time putting those videos together, and man, I was blown away by what my E2 F6 did at my last event. Video quality is fantastic. I shot with the Komodo for a little bit, you know, it's kind of getting used to that. And really the F6 kind of blows it out of the water. It has a fantastic dynamic range, great colors, full frame sensor. It's more affordable. I think it's only $5,000 still for the F6. Better low light performance for sure, much cleaner image. I mean, the Komodo's fun. It's a nice camera, it's global shutter, but yeah, the sensor just doesn't perform quite as well. And that's not a hit against it. Obviously the Komodo is like super popular. It's hard to buy right now, probably mostly because it's in low supply, but really for the money you get more from the F6. I know that's kind of off topic considering I was talking about this camera. I did compare this camera to my F6, and man, the 8K RAW is pretty darn impressive. A lot of detail, of course, great color. You get the Canon color out of this camera, and shooting RAW, you just have all the flexibility in the world. You can use any log profile. You know, you can use the Canon C-Log2 profile on it, and just you have to watch the timer limit. You get no more than 25 minutes in RAW, and the file sizes are massive. That's probably the biggest drawback, besides the overheating, is the file sizes in 8K RAW are just ginormous. But otherwise, the H.265, if you have a computer that can process that H.265, or if you have one of the M1 Max, you're golden. Otherwise, you pretty much have to proxy. That stuff is just not playable, especially the higher frame rates. Even at 23976, it does not play back well on my computers. All right, well, that's a pretty long take. I've talked a lot. Thanks for joining me. I'm gonna try to put some more content out. I've got these. I have these Zcan IPman S transmitters, receivers. They do all kinds of things. I haven't really had the time to dig into these yet, unfortunately. But look for a video on these because I'll be digging into it. These do streaming. That's kind of their main thing, is streaming. So thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.